Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Lunch with Leaders. My name is Megan Anthony, and I am an engagement coordinator with the University of Memphis Alumni Association. Thank you for joining us today. Whether you're tuning in from campus, the office, or somewhere in between, we're glad that you're here with us today. Lunch with Leaders is a virtual series designated to connect alumni, students, and professionals with accomplished leaders who share practical insights, experiences, and strategies for personal and professional growth. Today's topic is training with a winning mindset, a subject that extends far beyond athletics. Whether you're pursuing academic goals, growing in your career, leading others, or navigating life challenges, developing the right mindset can make all the difference in how we respond to adversity and achieving success. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Coach Cheri Lindsay. Coach Lindsay was named head coach of the University of Memphis volleyball program in January 2025 and brings more than a decade of collegiate coaching experience to Memphis. Prior to joining the Tigers, she served as head coach at Prairie View A&M University, where she led the program to back third place finishes in the Southwestern Athletic Conference and an accumulated 36-29 overall record. Known for her passion for developing student athletes both on and off the court, Coach Lindsay has built a reputation for fostering accountability, resilience, leadership, and personal growth. Her commitment to helping others reach their full potential aligns perfectly with today's discussion on developing a winning mindset. A standout athlete herself, Coach Lindsay was a three-time first-team All-SAC selectee at Prairie View A&M. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications. She also holds an MBA from Tiffin University, and she's currently pursuing a doctorate in sports psychology. Today, Coach Lindsay will share her perspective on responsibility, accountability, resilience, and the habits that support long term success, both personally and professionally. Coach Lindsay, thank you for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. We were kind of chatting before, and I'm currently recruiting in Florida, and so I'm so happy that I was able to jump on here and kind of share my parts of my mindset training model. But to start, I want to be able to give everybody a little bit of background on me and who I am outside of what she just presented. But like I said, my name is Cheri Lindsay. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, and I'm one of five kids, all of which we all played Division I college athletics. One of my siblings ended up going and playing in the NFL, and then I have two brothers that are currently doing some things with the MMA. And so for me personally, the coaching piece of it wasn't even something like coaching volleyball wasn't something that I seen myself doing until probably about 3 years into my coaching at Tiffin University when I was like, wow, like I'm really, really good at at coaching. And so when I took a job at Seattle University, that's when we had a mindset training coach. Her name was Nicole Davis. She's a two-time Olympic libero. She was in the 2008 and the 2012 Olympics, and she would do some mindset training stuff with our team. She worked very closely with Pete Carroll as well. From the Seattle Seahawks when he was coaching there, and I was hooked instantly. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I would love to pursue my doctorate in sports psych, and so that's kind of what prompted me to get into that. Now, as far as coaching goes, I've been coaching collegiately for this will be my 16th year. It feels like it kind of flew by, but one thing that I feel like is pretty evergreen is that training of the growth mindset. No matter how much athletics has changed, or no matter how much anything has really changed, that training of a growth mindset is something that can be applied to collegiate athletics, high school athletics, and just life in general. For if you're, working in development, are you working at a university, are you working wherever you are? I feel like you can always train to be better and grow in that way. And so, today's presentation is going to be some of the stuff that I do with my team. And so, we're going to kind of open the floor. It's a very interactive type of exercise some of the things that we do. And so there's a couple of options there for you to, if you want to raise your hand for some of the parts that kind of require a little bit of speaking or like maybe putting into the chat. But I would love for you guys to interact as much as you possibly can, and take some notes and do all those things, because I think it would be something that's really beneficial that you can use later on. So to start, the first thing is, what is training? What is mindset training? So, mindset training is training a positive mindset in all aspects of life. So, not just in sports, but all aspects of life. We teach our athletes to reframe negative thoughts and understand that there's power in mindfulness. And so, when you're a college athlete, one of the things that is probably the most impactful, particularly in volleyball, is when things are not going well, right? So everybody's able to kind of function effectively and like have a good attitude and be optimistic when things are going well. But what happens when you get ace twice in a row? Or what happens when it's championship game and it's like I can't make a mistake. And so we teach our athletes to be able to master those moments and teach them mindfulness so that they can continue to grow. And that in turn, that training, it actually it goes into just their everyday life as well and how they handle different situations. And so when we're talking through training a growth mindset, we constantly want to model the growth mindset. As it's essential to just overall growth. It's easy to have hope for a growth mindset when things are going well, but we want to train that for when things aren't going well. So there's a couple things that we just never do in our gym, and words like using words like should, because it does have that negative connotation that it's like, oh, you should be able to get that ball. It just sounds wrong. Or like if your boss is talking to you and they're like, oh, well, you should be able to get that in, it's going to make you feel away. And so we don't use the word should in our gym. We don't use words like, oh, I did bad or I suck. We try to really eliminate the term I completely and make it more so we, because at the end of the day, we are a team and we are training that growth mindset together, and we are winning games together. We are losing games together. But even through losses, we still have to continue to grow and get better. So I know that I can't really see you guys, but I would love for you guys to do kind of like a mental reset. So before we kind of start going into the mindset training, I would love for you to take a minute and I'm going to talk you through how we kind of reset the with our deep breathing. So if I can get all of you to kind of sit up straight, relax your shoulders. If your shoulders are up, that means that you're holding on to a lot of tension anyway. So we want to relax those shoulders. Put your hand on your stomach. And I want you to breathe in for 5 seconds and then try to release that air for probably about 5 to 7 seconds. Do not allow your shoulders to go up when you do this, but you want your stomach to expand. So basically, it's going to look something like this. And I want you to take some time and really do that. So I'm going to let you guys do that for probably about, maybe let's go 5 deep breaths. And hopefully you guys are able to participate effectively with that. And then we'll move on to the next, because that will give you kind of ground you and get you ready for the mindset training part of what we're about to do. And I think I hear, can you guys see on there if everybody can hear me and everything? I just want to make sure. Okay. So now that you've finished your deep breathing, hopefully you finished your deep breathing. Um, the first part that we're going to talk about, and something that we talk about consistently in our gym, um, after we've done that mental reset, is being present. So regardless of what's happening, and well, being present, and then also having kind of a bit of a ritual throughout your morning so that you know that you're locked in for whatever you need to do. So whether it's, oh, I'm coming to work, I need to make sure that I have my coffee first, and I need to make sure that I maybe do some stretching and then get in my car and go to work. And there has to be some type of flow through your morning so that you can be present. And so um we encourage our athletes to be consistent with whatever that ritual that they have every day is, so that it simulates the same thing when it becomes game day. So um one thing that we talk about always is being present and living in the moment. No matter what's going on, this is the moment that we're in. And so we always want to make sure that we are capitalizing on that moment. We're giving it 100% of our time, our effort, and everything that that moment deserves. We don't want to be off on different tangents thinking about different things. So after we do our deep breathing, we check in. So one thing that you guys can probably take from this, whether again, no matter what realm of work that you're in, one thing that we do every day is we check in with our athletes. So after they do their warm up, I give them the practice plan, and then we sit in a we not sit, but we stand in a circle and we check in. And basically, all that is, for lack of better words, it's what's good. How are you feeling today? I don't want to hear about volleyball. I don't want to hear about anything. I want you to check in that moment with how you're feeling right now before this practice or before this game. For one, that's going to give my coaching staff a lot of information. If you check in and you're like, hey, like I'm feeling terrible. I just had two tests. I probably bombed one of them, and I didn't get any sleep last night. It's not going to change the way that we coach you. We're still going to coach you consistently the same way, because our goal as coaches is to always be consistent. Just like your goal, if you're the boss or something like that, should always be to be as consistent as possible. But it is going to help us understand that maybe their practice today or what they're putting out, that 100% really might be about 70%, but we're going to get 100% of that 70% from our athletes. And so that check in, and we encourage our athletes to be honest in those check ins. It lets us know, okay, hey, like she's ready to go, or hey, like she might be a little off today, but we're still going to get that 100%. And so, and they know that, and our athletes are always going to have that space to be themselves. Which kind of brings me into my next piece of this, which is, no matter what, your goal should always be to create space for whoever is working with you to be themselves. I feel I'm a strong believer in the fact that if you create this rigid environment where people feel like they can't, be who they are and who you hired them to be, or who you're working with, and they can't be themselves, they're never going to be able to live up to their full potential. And I think that that's been a huge part of the success that I've had as a coach, is that I'm recruiting you to be you. And if I have to reel you in, or or whatever the case may be, if you get a little bit too crazy on the court, we can absolutely do that. But at the end of the day, for lack of better words, I let my athletes cook. I want you to go out there and I want you to be yourself. I want you to play loose. I want you to play like who you are and who we brought you here to be. And so that's the next part of the mindset training. Um, Before we kind of go into the next piece, does anybody have any questions that they about any of the things that we've talked about so far? Is it showing anything? I can't tell if there's anything in the chat.
Nothing has been submitted in the chat just yet, but guys, if you just raise your hand, just use the raise hand feature. We are looking at the participants, and you guys will be allowed to unmute yourselves and speak. So
Okay, awesome. So if there, oh, not a question, but creating space to let folks be themselves. I didn't get to read the rest of it. What did it say?
Mark says, not a question, but creating space, let folks be themselves is gold.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like my players, they're also different, right? So we have about 18 players on our team, and they're also different, but that's what makes them also special. And so if I brought in an athlete to a program and I was like, okay, this is how you have to act, this is how you have to look, this is how you have to be a part of this team, they're going to be so busy trying to be what I want them to be, that they're going to lose the comfortability in just who they are in general. And so they came to play for me because I am who I am. Regardless, I am a consistent, I am Cheri Lindsay, and that is who I am. And so they came to play for me. So if I have the ability to be myself, then they should have that ability as well. So thank you so much for that feedback. Um, so the next piece, again, this is probably where it, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I heard somebody say something. Um, Yeah, so the next piece of this is where it kind of gets a little bit interactive. So let's talk about vulnerability. Which is like, ooh, like nobody nobody ever wants any parts of that. But in our mindset training model that we do with our athletes, vulnerability is the biggest piece. And for our athletes, unfortunately, they have to learn it very quickly. So a lot of them will, our players come in July, but other schools that I've worked at, my players haven't been able to come in until August. So we basically are asking them or tasking them to be able to get vulnerable, be able to be okay with holding each other accountable, be okay with being held accountable, and still be playing volleyball, doing double days, doing all these things all in 2 weeks before we're about to play our first game. And so when you guys are presenting this type of thing to people that you work with, you have a little bit more time to kind of build up to it. But we're tasking these young women to basically do it quickly. And so I would love to know from you guys, what does vulnerability mean to you in the workspace? If you would love, if you can put that in the chat.
And Coach, as we're waiting to hear from the folks in the chat, we did get a question in a Q&A where while you were speaking about just creating an environment where your players feel comfortable enough with being vulnerable and being honest.
Mhm.
And one of the questions that was asked, it says, does it often take time for newcomers to adjust to this routine and open up about how they are feeling? If so, how do you get the players to open up and be their authentic selves?
Yeah, so I think for us, for me in particular, consistency throughout the entire recruiting process. I start really early, so like just last week, June 15th opened up where we were able to talk to the class of 2028. So when I'm on the phone with these 16-year-olds, I'm basically like, hey, like, show me who you are right now. Like, I would prefer for you to kind of have that opportunity right away, so that you do know if and when you do commit to the University of Memphis, that there's already that kind of comfortability there. And then I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
The second part was, how do you get players to open up and be their authentic selves?
Yeah, so I think it takes time because what we're talking about right now, the vulnerability piece, it doesn't come as easy as people would think. Because some people, I have some players that are super open and from jump, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, she's good. And then you have some that it just takes time. And I think that for me in particular, especially bringing in these young women into a completely different situation, and some of them are from out of state, I think that it's important to give them that time to be able to adjust. So maybe our first mindset training section, they don't say anything. That's fine. I'm not going to ever force my athletes to do something that they don't feel comfortable with doing, or say something that they don't feel comfortable with saying. But in time, no matter what level of vulnerability, because there are levels to it, you have to have some type of like comfortability and vulnerability with the team and the people around you, so that at least they have the opportunity to know who you are. And so then it translates. That relationship is going to translate on the court, and it's going to translate into things like trust. It's going to translate into, can this person get it done? Because at least I know her a little bit. And so it just takes time. So it depends on the people. And that's why me as a coach, I'm always going to do my best to learn my players as much as I possibly can, so that I see kind of when they're feeling uncomfortable, when they're feeling like they can go. And so that's also a part of why we check in a lot as well. Um, Let me see. I saw some stuff come through the chat. So vulnerability. Oh, you guys had some really good ones. Um, Francis says vulnerability in the workspace would be letting others know when you are wrong and have messed up, but owning it. Yeah, I think that, which kind of leads me into my next piece here. When it comes to the vulnerability piece and trusting people enough around you to know that there's not going to be any judgment. The other piece that we always talk about in our gym is that there is no malicious intent. And what I mean by that is, I can tell my teammate, hey, you need to get on the ground and get that ball up. and my teammate knows that I'm not coming at her or I'm not trying to make her feel any type of way, because there's that trust there, because we've built that. We've been vulnerable with each other. We've given them the opportunity to be themselves and know what that person is capable of. So they know that when the teammate is like, hey, you need to get that ball up, it's not with malicious intent. And I think that that's something that kind of gets glossed over a little bit when it comes to being in a workspace and working on a team or working with a team in general, is that people tend to forget that we need to make sure that there's no malicious intent when you guys are when the communication is happening, and that's where there's kind of some lapses in communication there. So that's definitely something that's a good one. Um, Having the responsibility to be relied on, for the good and the effort expected. Yep. Being brave enough to show authenticity, own mistakes, and accept feedback. Yeah, a lot of you guys are. A lot of these are very similar, and I love the wording that you guys are using, because it definitely is spot on with what we're constantly trying to teach our young athletes, while still being patient with each other and knowing, like, okay, like they have a ways to go, or this person might be more vulnerable than the others, but still at the end of the day creating that space. So thank you guys so much for your feedback on that. Um, the other piece that we like to talk about is understanding that you have to get uncomfortable to be truly vulnerable. And again, there's levels to that. And just like you have to get uncomfortable to learn a new skill, or you have to get uncomfortable and be okay with failing in order to learn the knowledge. If you never fail, then you never get better, in my opinion. And so that's another big part that we teach in our gym when it comes to vulnerability. And then the next piece here is understanding that they're in a safe place. And that's again something that we work on as a staff very early on in the recruiting process, is that I'm going to ask you questions during the recruiting process when you're 16 years old or 17 years old before you come to the University of Memphis, that are going to kind of open up the door for you to know that, okay, I can talk to this coach. I feel like I feel safe talking to this coach. I feel like I'm not going to be judged talking to this coach. And so we start that very early on. And so when we're with our team at the University of Memphis, we do what we call walk and talks, or coaching coffee, which is also part of my mindset training model that we do. And it's really cool because it's player initiated. And I do that on purpose because, as a head coach, if I make it mandatory for my athletes to meet with me once a week and do coaching coffee and walk and talks, not only am I probably going to get 30,000 steps in a day, um, it's going to feel like a task for them. And so we do player initiated walk and talks, or coaching coffee, or even coach and lunch, where they can reach out to any of us coaches. So me, Coach Mitch, Coach Andy, Coach Kaiser, they can reach out to us individually and schedule those, and they can have that open dialogue with us outside of the volleyball gym, so that they understand that not only are we their coaches, but we're also here to be here for you. You know, you're going to go through different walks of life, but this is a safe place, and it extends past the volleyball court. Um, then the last part of the vulnerability piece is celebrating our athletes for being themselves. Like, we're not, again, it kind of goes to the judgment piece, but we're never going to judge our athletes for being goofy, or, you know, or even getting upset, or losing a game and being upset. That's who they are. You know what I mean? And I would never want to change that about them. So does anybody in here have any questions about the vulnerability piece and how we kind of train that into our athletes? Oops, I think I got cut off. Yeah, does anybody have any questions about how we train vulnerability, or if you have any other feedback on maybe ways that you can train vulnerability, or how you exude vulnerability in your workspace? Okay, right. So the next piece that we're going to talk about, and this is probably where it's going to get the most interactive. Because on the first day of our mindset training, we always, one of the things that we focus the most on is creating a personal philosophy. And basically, what that personal philosophy is what describes you. And so when I first did my first personal philosophy, it was about a page long. And it had all these words and all this stuff and all these things that I would use to describe me. And now my personal philosophy is literally like 3 words. And so it's morphed and changed over the years as I've gone through this program and as I put my teams through this program, so that just because I've grown as a person. And so every year, in the spring, we do this mindset training model. We add some things, we take some things out, but the personal philosophy is always there. And I ask all my athletes to keep the personal philosophies that they make from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year so that they can kind of see how they have morphed and grown over the time. So, what I would love for you guys to do, if you have paper in front of you, and hopefully you have paper and pencil in front of you, I need you to write down a list of words that describe you. And if you're feeling up to it, if you would love to put some of those words into the group chat, and kind of present those words, or you can raise your hand and turn your mic on, and we can and you can present those. So if you want to take a bit to put that in there, and then if you can raise your hand to kind of announce what your words are that would describe you.
Looks like we have a few words appearing in the chat. We have creativity, fair, strategic, effective, service.
Mhm.
Is there, I don't see a hand raised for anyone that would like to come on screen to talk with us, but don't be shy, guys. Don't be afraid. But it looks like all of the conversations in the chat, which is fine. We got caring, service. Okay, so really good nouns and adjectives there.
Yeah, awesome. Hold on, I feel like I just lost my camera a little bit. Can you still see me, or am I?
Yes.
You can? Okay, because I can't see anything anymore. So as long as you can still see me, I can keep going. Awesome. So now the next piece of this is I need you to think of pivotal moments that have shaped you in your life to be who you are. And so a good example of that for me, so when I was 21, I was in college, I actually had a stroke. And nobody really knew what was going on, but that fight and that drive that I had coming back from that stroke to be able to still play my senior year of college volleyball, that was something that shaped me into who I am today, without a doubt. And so I really want you to take some time and kind of think about pivotal moments in your life may have shaped you into who you are. And then if you can also put that, if you feel comfortable, again, if you can share or put that into the group chat, which will probably be easier if you rose your hand and actually talk, because it'll probably be a lot to type. But I would love to hear from you with that as well. And I have no idea how to cut my camera back on, so I can't see anything. So if you guys can help me with that, that would be awesome. Could be because my phone might be overheating. No, I think I might be frozen.
Coach Lindsay, we can still hear you, but you are frozen. And we lost her. Guys, just give us just one moment. We're going to try to get Coach back online.
Okay, I think I'm back. I'm so sorry. I'm not really sure what just happened there. I got the boot. But I'm seeing some awesome things coming through the group chat. So if the can you guys please read those to me so I can catch back up?
Yep. So we have some comments. Says working for bad leaders really shaped my approach to leading. We had someone say having parental guidance from both mother and father, working together as a family to accomplish goals. Pivotal moment realizing it's up to myself to create the change I want to see, not expecting anyone else to show up as I wish they would, but instead to rise to the challenge of change. Someone also said a pivotal moment in growth was this one time when I failed. It was humiliating. I realized that I didn't like the feeling and tried to avoid it since, and be gracious to others when they've made errors.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that one thing again that we are constantly kind of pushing in our gym is that you're gonna you're gonna have to there's things about you that have shaped who you are, whether it's good or bad or wrong. At the end of the day, you are who you are because of the things that you've been through. And so in an effort again to give our players the opportunity to be themselves and to feel comfortable with being themselves, they have to be willing to almost understand that part of their self of like, why do I act like this? Well, it's because this happened. So the next piece of this, or the next and final piece of this, of creating your own personal philosophy, is influential people who have played a role in who you are. So for me, in particular, the influential person in my life, and probably I would say all my siblings' lives, is my dad. Our dad started us playing sports. Our dad literally shaped us into the people and the personalities and the way that we are. We are literally like mirror image of our dad, pretty much all of us. And so, if you want to write that down as well, you guys don't have to share that piece unless you want to. But with those three components, so with the words that describe you, the pivotal things that have happened in your life to shape you into who you are, and then the pivotal people who have played a role in shaping you into your life, I want you to kind of put that on paper. And it doesn't all have to be done now. But the reason that we do that again with our athletes is so that they can continue to see growth in themselves. Because that's a like an intangible way to kind of measure growth. And you're going to see changes because every year, every day, something different is going to come up that's going to change who you are and how you view things. And so because that's why we put it on paper, so that our athletes can see that change. For instance, like one of my athletes, her name is Janiyah Henderson. She was with me at my old school, so I've had her since she was a freshman. And her, through this mindset training program, her, I guess, philosophy has changed so much. Just it's almost drastic how much it's changed. And now she's going into her senior year, and like she'll look back at the mindset training that we did in 2023 when she was a freshman, and she actually told me, she's like, Coach, it's almost kind of embarrassing a little bit to kind of see where my mind was then. But it's like, well, that's the beauty of it. You get the opportunity to grow, and you get to see it. And on paper, you see that growth, and so it's really cool. So I think that that's like one of those things that we do it for. Let me see. I see in the group chat. I think I saw something come across.
Yes, Miss Beverly said that the pivotal people in her life have been her parents, her elementary sixth grade teacher, middle school science teacher, and pastors.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and it can be anyone. I've come across some of the most, like I said, even with Nicole Davis, like her getting me, like her doing a couple mindset training things with my team at Seattle U, and it put me on this trajectory to get my sports psych PhD, which I would have never thought that that would be the route that I would take. Especially, I mean, I got my MBA, and I got my undergrad in psychology and communications, but I would have never thought that it would launch me into sports psych. But the reason behind my wanting to go into sports psych from that, because I think she just had hers in regular psych, was the mind of the athlete and the mind of anybody who has to perform. And I'm going to say that again: the mind of the athlete or the mind of anybody who has to perform. So that could be in any any walk of life, any job, anything like that. If you have to perform, present, you have to do it to the best of your ability. This is something that can be used. And so the reason that I wanted to do that was because athletics is constantly evolving and life is constantly evolving and things are constantly evolving for these young players that are coming into college and they're still trying to figure out who they are. And so the mind of that athlete and like how things are up and down, they're hot and cold, they're never consistent, and finding a way to kind of keep them grounded through all those walks of life while they're in this program is something that's really important to me. So with your personal philosophy, like I said, hopefully you guys can take some time and really sit down and really write that out and kind of make a task for yourself every year to like revisit that and see who you were on this day, next year and the following years, and kind of see that growth in yourself, because that's a really cool part of the mindset training program that we do. The last part that I want to go into is, what does it feel like when it's good to be you? And I want you to kind of think of that question. And you can use like, you can use, oh, it feels light. It feels, whatever you want to say, but think about it for a second. And then if you don't mind putting into the group chat, what does it feel like when it's good to be you? And then we'll do the rest of the question. I don't know if you see anything there. Oh, when I'm appreciated for something. Yeah. Okay, I can see. Anybody else? Anybody else? What does it feel like when it's good to be you? When I feel validated. Yeah.
When I
When I
feel
feel
at
at peace.
peace. Nice.
Yeah. Confirm that something I said or did help them in some way. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that does feel good to be you. When I see I've had a positive impact on someone. Absolutely. And that's also something like with us that we talk about. Like for me personally, when it feels good to be me, I feel energetic. I feel like I can conquer the world. When things are going well, I'm like, yeah, like things this is real good to be me right now. Now I'm gonna Uno reverse it a little bit. What does it feel like when it's not good to be you? Because again, this mindset training and training a growth mindset is not just about acknowledging when things are going well. It's easy to be on top of the world when things are falling in the right place. But in order to truly gain a growth mindset and to continue to get better, you have to be able to acknowledge when things are not going well, and how to kind of flip those. So if you guys can put it into the group chat, what does it feel like when it's not good to be you? Overwhelmed and
Overwhelmed and tired.
tired. Yeah. Yes.
Thought I saw a hand raised, but I think they put their hand down.
Put that hand back up. I want to talk to you. Let me see. Overwhelmed and tired, stressful. When things are hard, I feel static and stunted. Yes. Yeah. Being criticized, misunderstood, and angry. Yeah. These are all really, really good, really, really good questions. But now I want to kind of, before we go on to the next part, I kind
So,
of want to draw
Coach,
attention. Oh, go ahead.
so we do have a hand raised, Miss
Okay.
Francesca. Give me just a moment, and I'm going to bring her on screen because I think she has something for us. Hi, Miss Francesca. You
Hi.
should be able to, yeah, unmute yourself.
There we go. Hi, I'm
Hey.
Francesca. I figured I would chime in. Just wanted to say when it feels not good to be me, I feel stuck. Like I can't think about what the next thing to do is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I'm so glad. Thank you so much for jumping on, because that's also a big part of it too. Again, like I always tie everything back into volleyball, but like you get ace twice in a row, it probably doesn't feel good to be you, I would think. And so what we teach our athletes, which we do through what I call the epic thoughts chart. We don't have a ton of time to go over it, but if you want to take a note of it, the epic thoughts chart is basically, for lack of better words, a hype yourself up chart. And so it's 5 columns. So if you make a big box and you make 5 columns, the first column is, what is that trigger? So with the analogy that I just used, that trigger would be, oh, I just got ace 3 times in a row. And then it's what the next column is, what is the negative thought, right? So that negative thought could possibly be, wow, I suck at passing, right? And then the next column is it 100% true? Hopefully that answer is no. Doesn't work if that answer is yes, but hopefully that answer is no. And then the next part is back it up. So, um, in my mind, and I'll answer that question. It's called the Epic Thoughts Chart. It's just a crazy kooky name that we made up for basically hyping yourself up. But the last part of that chart is back it up. Right. So if I'm that player who got aced, my negative thought is, wow, I suck at passing. I'm going to reframe that thought of, hey, I can move my feet. That I can reframe that thought by moving my feet faster. I can be better in this way. Or, hey, like, I know I can pass this ball, because we never wanted to dwell on I suck at passing. There has to be a piece between there, right? And then is it 100% true? No, it's not true that I suck. And then you're going to back that up. And that could be with the thought of like, oh, when I played against University of Charlotte, I passed a 2.5, and and I did great things in that game, because you know that you've done it before. And so that's the thought process behind the Epic Thoughts chart. And the way that we kind of and put that into our practices is like we teach them how to kind of go back to that thought in about 2 seconds. You don't even need a lot of time. Between serves, it's like, okay, I just got aced. Let me go back to reframe that thought that I just had, because I know for a fact that I can do it, and I know I've done it before. Um, so it's just a tool that we kind of use in our gym to kind of help them to get over and have that short term memory, and also training mindfulness while still keeping them in the game and keeping them locked in. So that's something that a little tidbit that we do. And typically I'll do the Epic Thoughts chart with people while I'm doing this training, but it's kind of difficult to do that via webinar. But that's definitely something that you guys can write down as a way to kind of help anybody. It can be an athlete or whatever, to perform when things get tough and when it's not good to be you. And then the last part of that is, how can others around you, and be thinking about this, and you don't have to put it into the chat if you don't want to, but be kind of thinking about, how can others around you, how can your coworkers help you when you aren't feeling at your best? So we've already talked about like what it feels like when we're not at our best, but how can your coworkers or people that are around you help you when you aren't at your best? And if you can't think of a way to help them, then you kind of have to go back and you have to think about ways um, that your team, because ultimately, if you're not feeling at your best, it could be impacting other people around you. And if they don't know how to help you because you don't know how to help yourself, we got to kind of get to the bottom of that, and how we can do it and keep moving forward as a group. Um, so that is the first, typically, day one of our mindset training model that we do. My mindset training model is about 2 weeks long. And so I couldn't like condense all of the stuff into it, but um, I would absolutely love to continue talking about it with anybody who wants to talk about it. My email's online, and I'm happy to jump on the phone with anyone who joined into this webinar. But I think that we had a couple of questions as well that were pre-submitted, I think.
Yes, ma'am. If you're ready, we can definitely jump into that portion of the webinar. Um, let's see. One of our first questions that was submitted and asked was, how can educators help students develop a growth mindset and stay committed to their goals, particularly when anxiety and setbacks make them want to disengage?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I love that. So I would probably say one of the biggest mistakes that we make is treating setbacks like failure. I tell my athletes all the time, like, you have to fail in order to grow. So the confidence that you have, it isn't built when everything is going well. It happens when things aren't going well. So as an educator, I would say that we need to continue to praise effort, consistency, and improvement, instead of just judging outcomes. Um, And what I mean by that is, like, how in my gym, we always teach our athletes to be process oriented. And again, this is something that can be taken out of athletics. We don't want to be results oriented. We want to be process oriented so that we know that we can duplicate whatever that success is. So if you're an outside hitter and we're working on hitting the ball to a certain spot, there is a clear process in order to be able to do that consistently. And the same thing can be said if you're, submitting, whatever you need to do for your job. There has to be some type of a process. So if you just go off of the result and you don't know how you got there, you're not going to get anything out of it. So help students to break down large goals into small goals to kind of keep their minds moving and growing, and like, okay, I hit this goal, now I have to do this next goal. So that's another way that you can do that. When somebody is anxious, thinking about passing the entire semester or feeling overwhelmed by but focusing on today's assignment is like when somebody's anxious, you can break down those small goals so that they can have small things to focus on instead of just looking at the overall picture, which can be extremely overwhelming. So hopefully that answers your question. But that would be what I would say.
Thank you. It looks like I'm going to grab one of the questions that's in our Q&A chat. One
Oh,
of the
sweet.
questions that we received is, does it often take time for newcomers to adjust to this? Oh, I'm sorry. We already answered that question. Actually, let me move on to another one. As a leader, how do we move from simply being busy to being truly productive and purpose driven? I think we kind of talked about this while we were kind of getting ready for today's webinar, discussing, all the things that you are actively working on currently. So would you mind just sharing just a little insight on that for us? As far as the question, how to simply, move from being busy to being truly productive and purpose driven.
Yeah, I think again, it kind of goes back to having that process. We all are moving at a million miles per hour, no matter what our respective positions are. And so I think breaking things down and having a clear mapped out goal for what you want to accomplish that day. And I love that question because I've had days where I've just been running around and I've got nothing accomplished. And then I kind of had to like reel myself back in, like, okay, Cheri, like you need to be more productive here. And the best way to do that is to map out what you need to do. What's the most important part? What's parts that maybe can take a little bit of a back seat because we have a little bit more time? Like what's the more pressing things, so that we can make sure that we're getting things done effectively, with everything else that we have going on. So like right now I'm currently recruiting in Florida, at a tournament, and I'm leaving here and going and getting married in a week, and I have to be trying to balance all those things. And it's very easy to go crazy and be thinking about everything, but I feel like I've done a really good job of kind of mapping that out so that I don't overwhelm myself, which would in turn overwhelm my team and it would just make it really tough for everybody around me. So having that clear plan is really important.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that answer. Another question we have is, how do you navigate uncertainty, particularly during major life or career transitions?
How do I navigate uncertainty? Man, that is such a good question. I feel like one of the things that I do personally is understanding, for one, who I am. I know for a fact that no matter what the change that's going to happen, no matter um no matter what life throws at me, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I know that there's never going to be a point where I'm an imposter in this new situation. And I have the opportunity to make that situation whatever I want to make it because I'm new. And it's for me it's super important to understand that, especially when we're going through the process of like building a team and doing those type of things and being in a completely different conference from one that I was in. It's really easy to kind of let those negative thoughts kind of come in. And again, that's where that mindset training kind of comes in of like, no, I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to stay the process. And I'm not going to allow myself to think that I'm not taking up enough space. I'm going to be big in every single room. I'm going to be big in my profession, and that's what's going to ultimately make me successful in what I want to do.
So thank you so much for that question. I think we have time for just a couple of more. Another really good pre-submitted question was, what separates people who achieve success from those who have talent but never fully reach their potential?
Hmm. I would say, do you mind reading that one more time?
Yes, ma'am. What separates people who achieve success from those who have talent but never fully reach their potential?
I would say, and this might this might rub a couple of people wrong, but I feel like talent get your foot in the door. But character, discipline, coachability, consistency, they determine how long you stay there. And like say for instance, I'm here watching a whole lot of talent, but can you show character? Can you be disciplined? Can you show coachability? I'm watching all of those things when we're here watching these young athletes play. The most successful athletes I've coached haven't always been the most gifted. As far as like, they can't touch 10-4 and they can't, run super, super fast. However, they were the ones who embraced the accountability, handled adversity well, and kept improving after everybody else stopped working. And so that's what I would say. That's the difference is that consistency, discipline, consistency. I'm sorry, I already said consistency, but coachability, and character. Those are the things that I would say.
Thank you for that response. We do have a question in the chat. The question is, are there any resources you recommend that people look into that go along with this topic today on the winning mindset?
Yes. Oh my goodness. The Culture Code. It's a book. I cannot remember the author's name. It's called Culture Code, and it is such a phenomenal book. It's like small short stories that were all put together, that all kind of talk about training that winning mindset, and it's a phenomenal book. And I actually got one of the tasks that I had my team do once. It's called the Bad Apple Test, and basically I gave my team. I split them into two groups, and I gave my there it is. Yep, Culture Code. Yep, that's the one. It's so great. But no, I put them into two separate groups, and we did this. I gave them like a task to do. It was like a riddle or something like that. Well, the two teams didn't know that I had strategically placed what I call bad apples into one in each group. And that bad apple was basically supposed to exude bad body language, act like they didn't want to be there, just not be a bad apple, And but the girls didn't know that that was what that person was doing. And so there was really no wrong answer, but it was really cool to kind of see who started acting like the bad apple, who kind of forced the bad apple to join and like engage them, even though they were having that bad body language, bad attitude, or the ones who ignored the bad apple because that's not good either. And so there was really no wrong answer, but it did open up their eyes to the analogy of one bad apple ruins the bunch, and that is super important. That no matter what's going on, we're able to bring people in and hold them accountable for what they're doing in a way that's productive, not in a way that you're yelling and screaming at each other, because that's not helpful either. But overall, while it did make them a little bit uncomfortable, it really opened their eyes to what maybe the things that they're not realizing that they're doing that directly impact the team. So yes, if you can get that book, and that's just one of the things that's in there. But if you can get that book is awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Lindsay, so much for your time today. And thank you for just all of the insight that you poured into all of the participants. I know I definitely, grabbed something from today's webinar that I'll definitely take with me and put into practice. So I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us for Lunch and Leaders session. We hope you found this conversation to be valuable and encouraging. Before we close, for those of you who are interested in supporting Memphis volleyball, we have the TLC Support Impact Volleyball Fund available. You'll see a QR code on the screen now, and if you would like to make a gift, we ask you to use that QR code. Additionally, a survey will be shared following the event. And again, thank you to everyone for joining us on today, and we hope to see you at a future Lunch and Leader session. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right, guys.
All
Good
right,
job.
discuss.
Is the event over? Did you
It's
end
just the
it?
4 of us.
It's just the 4 of us. Everybody's
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I kicked everybody out.
Well, that was interesting. We just
Yeah,
lost her halfway through.
Yeah. I'm glad we got her back though, because
Yeah.
I was concerned about that. But
These things
That-
happen.
Yeah.
People were interactive though. A lot of stuff in the chat.
What'd she say? Thank you so much. I hope I did it. No, she did. Awesome. So I will send up a follow-up email to everybody saying thank you. Jeff, I know I got to send you all the things, the attendees, the transcript, the recording. I'll get all that to you hopefully today.
Okay.
If not today, definitely tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But as always,
Make sure you send that to AdCom,
gotcha.
not just me, because I'm not here tomorrow.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll make sure I do it. But thank you guys so much.
So
As
yeah,
always.
Nia should be able to get the webinar posted for you tomorrow.
Okay.
So we can put a link in the. Are you sending the attendees an email, or are we sending the attendees an email, the follow-up email? I can't remember. I think we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'll do it on the next one. Okay. Thank you guys. It was a
Megan, great
success.
job.
Thank you. All right, I gotta go use the bathroom. Bye.